MacGyver.
Jita is where most of the money in New Eden changes hands. It's the market hub of the universe. It's generally where we all go to buy our stuff, do our trading, and check out the going rate of items. It's full of injectors, plex, purple mods, and shiny stuff. It therefore follows that it's full of the most villainous, untrustworthy, stealing, lying scum ever to have undocked. The gates into the system, the docking and undocking points, and even in-warp points, are all manned by pirates, gankers, loot thieves, and wardeckers. Despite being in high-sec, it's by far one of the most dangerous systems anywhere. While the lure of loot brings together these ruthless pilots, the temptation is too much for some players. Rather than stick within the rules, the Jita undock is littered with mouse clickers, external software, and scripts injected into the client, all with the sole purpose of staying ahead of legitimate players. Last year, I published a video about such players. Shortly after that, we saw the removal of some infamous loot thieves. Other players seemed to take the warning, and things seemed to become less automated. During this time, I started to receive lots of correspondence from players about botting and automation that they had encountered. There were many anecdotal tales of inexplicable things that pilots had seen, from Jita itself to mining and ratting bots deep in nullsec space. It seemed like there were many players who wanted to point at something to highlight their experiences of players cheating. Every now and then, something more substantial would happen. Solid evidence. Different sources corroborating this evidence. And finally, video footage. Shortly after last year's video, I received an email from a pilot. He was completely open and frank about his experiences. He told me about starting out as a ganker, but being frustrated about ganking on the Jita station. All of the loot thieves were beating him to his own wrecks. This frustration led him to reach out to other pilots for help. One pilot apparently responded with a script. It was tailor-made for his character, hard-coded so it only worked with this pilot. He said that it worked so well that his looter was immediately identified by other gankers as a bot. He went from being the bottom of the food chain to being able to steal from almost all others. He says that there was just one or two pilots he still couldn't beat, and I'll come back to who this is later on. This pilot then sent me a copy of the scripts. There was no way I was going to run files sent to me by email, but I did open them in Notepad. Unfortunately, I know nothing about programming. I did, however, spot a reference to EVE-bot. Google showed that this was a script for manipulating EVE Online. There were also references to scooping loot. I passed this information in the script onto CCP. I asked them if this was legitimate or if I was having my leg pulled. They didn't respond. I will say, however, that judging from Zkill, this pilot is still active. Last December, I created a new alt to be a loot thief. After successfully stealing from a ganker called Kamikaze Jita, I returned the loot to him. This caused him to open up to me about his experiences. He sent me a few messages talking about watching the containers, which I didn't understand, but after a little digging he explained that there was a script being used by some players to loot, and he could identify these players because when they were setting themselves up, they dropped a container. But that in itself wasn't the giveaway. It was when they looted that the impossible happened. He explained that when these pilots looted the wrecks, the container was emptied and disappeared at exactly the same time, the same tick, impossibly fast. I asked why, and he said he didn't know, but he thought it was a function of the script. I went back to the pilot who'd emailed me the script to ask about this. I asked if there was a requirement for a container, and he confirmed that yes there was, and if there were other containers around it messed up the script. That corroboration was interesting, but I wanted more. I knew of a ganker who many years ago operated extensively on Jita IV-4 and knew all of the gankers and their tricks. He ended up leaving because of the bots and the scripts, and if anyone could tell me more about this, it would be him. He confirmed that this script was widely used by some of the Jita gankers, and he told me how it worked. The first bit of knowledge that you need, and CCP confirmed this to me, is that when a wreck appears, it can be interacted with in space quicker than it can be on the overview. So if you could freeze that moment when a wreck appeared, right click on it in space, then you could get the option to open up the wreck and then subsequently loot it. The overview works slower. You have to wait a moment for it to appear and for that option to come up. This script took advantage of that. It worked like this. The brackets in space are all removed apart from those of wrecks and containers. Then the screen is focused in on the container dropped by the pilot. The script reads the screen, and the logic is something like, if a wreck appears within a close distance of the container, click on it, open it, loot it. This would explain why so many pilots report that by the time the wreck shows up on their overview, it's already empty. The looting pilot doesn't even need to be at the keyboard. If he gets alerted by a noise that a wreck has been looted, all he has to do is dock. Who knows, maybe the script even does that for him. So I had the script, the explanation of the script, and 3 people confirming its existence and how it worked. These 3 pilots were also on very different sides. If you think that the gankers on Jita exist harmoniously, you'd be very wrong. There's a clear divide with both sides throwing accusations at each other. The one thing that they all agreed on when talking to me though was this script and how it worked. So all I had to do was catch it on video. Now, I have to be cautious and clear here. I'm not going to be saying that any particular pilot is using scripts. I've been in hot water before when I pointed out what I believed was clear evidence of a player using scripts. So I won't take that final step of saying this person is cheating. I'll provide a simple video of what happened and I'll let you draw your own conclusions. This is from the docking point at Jita IV-4. There are gankers and loot thieves. The pilots I want you to watch are Kurenai Uchura and Majin Vehito. They are alts of the same player. Here he is getting himself into position at the docking point. This is where ships will be blown up and where the wrecks will appear, and as his looting orca gets settled, we see the container being dropped. The container has 1 metal scrap in it. If we scan the orca, we can see as many others ready to drop. He's in it for the long haul. So now we have to wait for a wreck to appear, and it's not too long. His ganking ult takes a shot, and this is what happens to the wreck. The wreck's looted, and the container disappears at the same time. Let's watch it again in slow motion. Let me tell you what it's like being a ganker after you take the shot. This is the moment of panic. So much can go wrong. Someone else can get to the wreck before you, or your work could be for nothing. Even if you do get the loot, you then go suspect. Anybody can legally shoot you. The Jita undock is packed with trigger-happy pilots, and you going flashy is good news for them. All you are interested in is in docking up and getting that loot into your hangar. Nothing else matters. Your heart is pounding, and until you hear the words docking request accepted, you are vulnerable. So the idea that you would stop in the middle of all of that to manually empty a container which contains 1 piece of metal scrap and put your ship and your loot in danger is absolutely unfeasible. It's not believable. Here's a second example of the whole process. And again in slow motion. And here's a third example. Like I said, I'm not going to say straight out, this guy is using scripts. This is just a video of what happened out in the open. Anyone could see it. But I do want to bring you back to something. Do you remember the email from the pilot who admitted using a script? He told me that there was 1 or 2 pilots who he could never outloot. He named Majin Vehito. Now he could be innocent, he could be so fast that he is faster than not only everyone else, but also faster than other pilots who have admitted to using scripts. He could be that good. As a final point in this video, I'd like to answer a question that I'm asked quite regularly. People who do seem to mean well ask if they should report players as bots because of what they've seen in my videos. The answer has to be a clear no. The report a player as a bot function must only be used when you have seen something yourself which you believe to be automation. Misuse of this function can be treated as being a punishable offence by CCP. Do not report someone as a bot just because of what you've seen in one of my videos. If you do want to stop these players, do it within the rules that exist in the game universe. Get into a fast ship and bump their tornadoes and their looters. Drop your own containers near them, it'll mess up their script. Activate their kill rights. Tank up your own ships and bait them to kill you. And fail. This will cost them ISK and thwart their plans, and it's all legal and fun. I'm Magaibo, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.